we've talked about Just Stop Oil. They're a climate activist group in England, as far as I can tell. I don't know if they're in any other places in Europe. And I don't know if folks have noticed, but climate change seems to be rolling along with very little action by world governments. We have a situation now in Alaska. Apparently, Alaskan snow crabs. I'm not a big consumer of Alaskan snow crabs, but 90%. This is the entire Alaskan snow crab species. 90% of them are gone from 2018.
I mean,
relative to 2018, they're gone. 90% are gone. They're no longer fishing them, but they haven't quite figured out what happened. If they all died over the course of that time, they were not overfished, as it were. They're just gone. They can't tell if they moved and migrated from a place where they've always been, hence the Alaskan snow crab moniker. But invariably, it is going to be about the warmings of the ocean, and that they've either died out because of what they required to eat no longer was sustainable in those waters, or they have moved to they've migrated in some way. There is a climate emergency. I don't think, does anybody have any doubt about that? And I'm talking to those people who have been critical of these protests. I saw the protest. Personally, would I throw paint throw soup at a painting and then glue my hands to the wall? No, because I don't have the balls to do it. Do I think it's a problem if this painting was ruined because it's a Picasso, right? Was it a Picasso?
A Van Gogh.
A Van Gogh. Do I think it is a problem if this painting's ruined? I don't think it is a problem that is even remotely close to the problem we face in terms of climate change. But that said, the painting was in no way harmed.
Yes, just the frame.
Because there is glass in front of the picture. Because this was, and I mentioned the Situationists, this was something that you would see genuine revolutionaries doing as they were attacking art. They were stabbing. I think there was a situation where someone stabbed the Mona Lisa at one point. But think about how effective this is in terms of protest.
Well, to compare it to, some guy self-immolated like 3-4 months ago, and nobody talked about it.
Nobody talked about it. It is just the idea of ruining and let's be clear, the ruling class's notion of civilization, as opposed to civilization, right? Because, make no doubt about it. There is not going to be an extinction of the human race. There is more than likely going to be a massive reduction in the number of people because of massive droughts and famines and resource wars, et cetera, et cetera. So one is a symbol of civilization. The other is civilization. Let's watch this.
Security!
Do. And she also glues her hand to the wall, just so they have the opportunity of staying there as people shoot it. Now, it was videotaped by an independent filmmaker who I imagine was aware that there was going to be an action, but they did nothing except for videotape. And according to this guy's tweet, he was tracked down by British police and arrested based upon what? What did it say in his tweet?
They didn't really give him a like concrete answer, but he speculates that it's because they knew he was there documenting this.
And so what's involved in aiding and abetting this? Nothing. He didn't. It's not like he snuck them into the museum. It's not like he bought them the glue or the soup or something. But yet they've arrested him. Oh, it's a good thing they got 5 cops to do this too.
I mean, in America, that would be protected speech, wouldn't it?
I would think so.
I've got it here for you, mate. Under what power are you arresting this man? Section 34 of PACE allows us to arrest them when they've committed an offence. Okay. He's identified as committing an offence yesterday. Oh, okay. So we explain that to him. It'd be wrong for me to do so to you. Fair enough?
Why don't they arrest the guy who's shooting the arresting?
What reason are you arresting? My name is Rich Belgate. I'm a documented coming out on TV. I've got awards.
This is an independent filmmaker making a documentary about Just Stop Oil is now being arrested. He does absolutely nothing wrong.
Have we heard anything from people on the free speech beat about this arrest?
They found it to be absolutely ridiculous that someone would engage in these protests.
They made them want to be anti-environmental.
Yes.
Because it was obnoxious in their estimation, which is exactly the point. The point is that they're trying to get people to talk about it and be provocative. That's why they did what they did.
And just to clarify, a Metro Police spokesperson in London said a man was arrested on October 15th on suspicion of criminal damage outside New Scotland the previous day. The man was released without further action later that day.
In other words, we're going to intimidate this dude.
Yeah.
A nebulous charge and then releasing the guy the same day.
If you're going to be somebody who's going to help with these broadcast these protests,
the idea that anyone spends a moment of their time policing the nature of this protest, a moment of their energy, and I've seen people on the left who've been criticizing this, that is just totally missing the point. The action is there to be provocative, to call attention to things, and you are focused on entirely the wrong atrocity in your mind if that's what you're choosing to spend your mental energy on. It should always be about reframing what the protest means within the context of like the planet burning up and people dying, and we're seeing that already.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think like from a strategy standpoint, you can have like I remember when what's the other Extinction Rebellion did an action in London and stopped a tube station. I had criticisms of that because like you're pissing off a lot of working people who are trying to get to work, and I think like that sort of stuff. And then there was this other thing where animal rights people came in and dumped milk onto the floor, and then workers are just going to have to clean that up. And I think those sorts of things, I don't think like it's provocative and that's the point is enough. But I think this is very clearly like when it comes to the climate, unless you're willing to do something more like with a better target, for instance, than say art, I think you have to say fair play to people who are willing to go and make this sort of statement.
I mean, I think it's demonstrably better than those other ones you're talking about, because there is, we got an IM here from Amish Kami. I'm an artist, and there has been so many bad takes on this Stop Oil protest in my art community. People calling them fascists, entitled TikTokers, failure of education, indoctrination. People I respect, leftists, turning into right-wing reactionaries on this issue. It really is stunning. First off, I imagine I might think a little bit differently if the painting had been irrevocably ruined, but it wasn't harmed at all.
Yeah.
They have these things in these encasings because they are worth millions and millions of dollars, meant to sustain theft and I would say other elemental issues that could really harm it. A damn can of tomato soup isn't doing anything except to the frame.
But
They
did
can
the
replace it.
idea of art have a glass barrier around it? Because that's what they were attacking as well. Like that's where people are going when they're trying to act really pissed
What
off.
they're
But
saying
that's
that, like,
even the point, right? Is that nothing is safe from the ravages of climate change. Even these beautiful historical pieces of art are going to be affected by it. Even what the things that the wealthiest among us value the most, these priceless pieces of art, and they're not just like priceless. They have a high price point. Is the point that those are going to be affected too? That's the point.
Havana Syndrome says this painting debacle is such a first world thing to bitch about in the first place. Why? Because there are people who couldn't even imagine traveling to see world-renowned art because of the fact that they live in places that climate change has destroyed, like Pakistan. Remind 1/3 of Pakistan was underwater.
Yeah.
And like Pakistan, in which make anything other than immediate survival untenable. Kudos to the protesters working with what they have and bringing attention to the hypocrisy of all the commentators who care more about old oil paint than the oil barons who are out to kill us.
Yeah, clutch onto your precious tinctures and like pieces of art as the planet burns. I mean, that's just it does seem so silly when you reframe it like that.
It's also just sort of shocking that it's one thing to say like I have some idiosyncratic or normal version of vision of like how art should be, and if I was these protesters I wouldn't have done that. It's another to start saying like this is why we have climate change. This is why Donald Trump got elected. This is this makes
trinkets.
This makes me want to go roll coal, man.
Yeah.
Like, seriously? God. Unbelievable. You believe nothing. If a protest like this can change your mind about how we should react to climate change, or can even make you contemplate that someone could change their mind, then bullshit. Yeah. I call bullshit on where your mind is in the first place.
Yeah, you're performing a mind change because it's good marketing.
I mean, the idea that any form of protest can fundamentally change your perspective on fundamental questions that face society or really civilization. I mean, this is not like the Patriots were, shooting people's practices, and so now I can't root for them anymore. This is not that.
Yeah. I like this, a tweet by comedian Sridhar Ramesh. This overly dramatic, pointlessly destructive gesture desecrates the very spirit of Van Gogh. I'm just glad he is not around to hear of this. Van Gogh joke.
I mean, they would have had balls if they cut off their ears in front of that painting.
Actually, that would be it. If someone wants to cut off an ear in front of a Van Gogh painting, we'll cover it here.
Well, we certainly will. God, I got it.
Don't do it on our
Please,
account.
yeah, please. We're not encouraging
Let's not
that.
encourage anybody to do that.